Hey everybody, we've got some breaking news that is truly disturbing, albeit not surprising at all. Jimmy Kimmel, late night show host, just got Stephen Colbert'd, and he got canceled permanently by ABC Disney because of remarks that he made about Charlie Kirk. Now, what did he say, you might ask? Well, he alleged that the shooter was right-wing. He implied it's one of you guys, so that was the implication. He also said something to the effect of Trump doesn't really care. I can't play the clip for you, unfortunately, but he played a clip of Donald Trump being asked by a reporter, what are your thoughts on Charlie Kirk? How are you doing? Are you grieving your friend? And Trump just kind of brushed it off and talked about the ballroom. But for that remark, he got canceled permanently. Now, ABC doing this on their own volition, that's disturbing in and of itself because, a corporation should not bend over backwards to appease a regime that is suing everybody. Like, that shouldn't chill free speech. But what makes this particularly egregious is the fact that this is a direct violation of the First Amendment. The federal government pressured ABC to fire Jimmy Kimmel, and they complied with that request. The New York Times reports the abrupt decision by the network, which is owned by the Walt Disney Company, came hours after the chairman of the Federal Communications Commission, Brendan Carr, assailed Mr. Kimmel's remarks and suggested that his regulatory agency might take action against ABC because of them. Mr. Carr, in an interview on a right-wing podcast on Wednesday, said that Mr. Kimmel's remarks about the suspect were part of a concerted effort to lie to the American people and said his agency was going to have remedies that we can look at. Frankly, when you see stuff like this, we can do this the easy way or the hard way, Mr. Carr told the podcast's host, Benny Johnson. These companies can find ways to change conduct and take action, frankly, on Kimmel, or there's going to be additional work for the FCC ahead. In other words, Trump's administration threatened them with regulation, and they buckled like that. This is authoritarianism, okay? I need everybody to recognize that. It doesn't matter what you feel about Jimmy Kimmel. I was not a fan of Jimmy Kimmel. I really am indifferent to him. I've watched 0 episodes of his program. I've seen clips here and there. It's fine. Whatever. Not necessarily my cup of tea. I don't watch late night television. None of that matters right now. If comedians and news broadcasters lose the ability to calling it criticize really doesn't do it justice because I don't even think this is tantamount to criticism, but conservatives didn't like it because they feel as though Kimmel mischaracterized the assassin, Tyler Robinson. But if you cannot freely express yourself without the fear of persecution, you can't have a democracy. And I know that ship has sailed already. I don't think we're a democracy. We don't even meet the nominal definition of democracy. But if you cannot even allow broadcasts to go on without interfering and trying to pressure them to buckle to what you want or get them to say what you want, you can't have a free and open country. And to kind of give you an example as to why this is so problematic, Bassem Youssef, now an American citizen, because he was a comedian, he was the Egyptian equivalent of The Daily Show. He hosted the Egyptian equivalent of The Daily Show, I would say. He was the Egyptian Jon Stewart, and he made remarks about the regime that they did not like, and there are consequences for that. Now he's in America. And one thing that he said that really stuck with me, I've talked about this before, is that, he has his criticisms for the United States, but he's so thankful that he can freely express himself without fear of repercussion. Those days are gone. Those days are now gone. You simply cannot criticize Donald Trump on national television without fear of prosecution. In the same week, he announced that he's suing the New York Times. The federal government is using its power to stifle criticism of the administration. That is quintessential authoritarianism. Quintessential authoritarianism. And this is a pattern of behavior from this administration. As Adam Schiff points out, Kimmel, Colbert, lawsuits against the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, and 60 Minutes, extorting settlements from CBS, ABC, and others, blocking the AP's access to the White House. This administration is responsible for the most blatant attacks on free speech in American history. What will be left of the First Amendment when he's done? And that's a good question because it doesn't look like the First Amendment is going to matter much when he's done. And to add to that, there's also the new amendment that Boebert had brought up, where the House passed it, by the way, where if you criticize Israel, or you try to boycott Israel, which is a form of free speech, well, guess what? You don't get a contract with the federal government. It's bad enough that 38 states have laws preventing boycotts. Well, now can't have a contract with the federal government as well. There is another one where Marco Rubio could potentially act as the de facto thought police and revoke your passport if you say anything negative about Charlie Kirk. It is absolutely insane. And right now, corporations, they believe that it's a higher cost to not comply with conservatives than it is to comply with Trump in particular. But I think that this is where you really have to draw the line. There has to be an actual boycott on Disney, on ABC, to get them to reinstate Jimmy Kimmel. Not because I care about Jimmy Kimmel and he's the hill that we should all die on, but because if we don't draw the line now, pretty soon nobody is going to have the ability to criticize Donald Trump. He's going for the traditional media outlets now, but how long until they start going after non-traditional outlets? How long until they start going after political commentators on Twitch, on YouTube? How long until nobody is allowed to say what they want to say unless they get permission from the Trump regime? This is going in such a dangerous direction, and I genuinely don't know if this country can survive Donald Trump. Like, I'm always inclined to say, I don't know if democracy can survive Donald Trump, but we don't have a democracy. Like, this is not democratic, and I would be curious to know what the Freedom House score says next year when it's released, because every year they go through and they grade countries based on the level of freedom. We currently have a score of 84, I believe, compared to Canada, which has a score of 97, 98, which is like, 0 is no freedom, 100 is freedom. So we're characterized as free. I wouldn't be surprised if next year they say that we're no longer free, we're partly free at best, because the drastic actions that this administration has taken to consolidate power, you just can't go back from that. Like, there's no way that you could change this in 4 years and 8 years with a Democratic president. The only way to undo all of this is to have like somebody as power hungry in the Democratic Party, like, undo everything that he's doing unilaterally, but that would also violate the Constitution because the things that he's doing, like, he doesn't have the fucking power to do. He's signing executive orders that override constitutional amendments. Like, he signed an executive order to criminalize flag burning with a year in jail. You can't just undo the First Amendment with the stroke of a pen. He signed an executive order to undo birthright citizenship, 14th Amendment, with the stroke of a pen. You can't just do that. Or so I thought. But I mean, courts keep saying, oh, well, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't go into Los Angeles with the military, and he just keeps doing it. So if the Constitution is no longer in effect, what does that mean? That means effectively we are witnessing slow-moving regime change. That's what it means. We're frogs in a pot, and we are in the process of converting from flawed democracy to authoritarian regime. We're past democracy. I don't think we meet the basic criteria for liberal democracy. I think that right now what's going to be determined is how far down the scale of authoritarianism we're going to go. Like, how far will we descend into authoritarian madness? And it seems like he's not stopping at just simple liberal democracy, where you have the facade of civil liberties and civil rights, but it's just not upheld. Like, I think he wants total control, and this is evidence of it. So we've got to draw the line here. Otherwise, when and where do we draw the line? I get that all these corporations have already capitulated, so it feels like that ship has sailed. But like, this has got to be the most egregious example of the government violating the First Amendment by pressuring a company to back down. And right now they think it's easier to just comply. We can't let them just comply. So do what you got to do. Pressure Disney. Cancel your Disney Plus membership. Send them emails. Tweet at them. Let them know that we're not going to accept them just capitulating to fascism. The First Amendment is more important than their bottom line. Like, the U.S. government might not give a fuck about our protests and freedom of speech, but these large multinational corporations will never not give a fuck about their bottom line. So hit them where it hurts. We actually need a real boycott, an organized boycott of Disney because of this. This simply cannot stand. Like, stop watching them immediately, unsubscribe from them on YouTube, do everything you can to make the biggest fuss imaginable, because if we keep allowing our country to descend into authoritarianism, to just let the First Amendment be violated with impunity, we're not going to get these rights back once we lose them, friends. So that's why I wanted to make a breaking video, because the situation is bleak, and now is the time to act immediately. Go right after you watch this, cancel your Disney Plus membership, whatever other Disney shit you've got, cancel it all. Make sure that these corporations know it's not going to be easier to just go along with what Donald Trump wants. There's going to be hell to pay from the public if they keep capitulating to fascism because it's costing all of us our liberty.